It's been an interesting year for gadget watchers, particularly in the budget segment. While we're also working on a list of the best phones of the year, here we look at all the top picks under 20,000 rupees. Our picks range in the price from close to 10,000 rupees all the way up to the very limit we've set. But make no mistake, every entry is a good choice that delivers performance, battery life, and looks good to boot. One of the latest phones on the list, the Infinix Zero 5 Pro, is a good option under 20,000 rupees, squeaking in with a price at 19,999 rupees. In our review, the phone did very well across multiple fields, and although it could have done better, particularly in terms of its camera performance, the overall performance and vivid display carry the day for it. In terms of specifications, it's packing a 5.98-inch Full HD display with a 2.6 GHz octa-core processor, 6 GB of RAM, a 128 GB of storage, and a large 4350 mAh battery. On the back, it has a dual camera setup with a combination of a 12 and a 13 megapixel sensor, and a 16 megapixel front camera for selfies. Lenovo has been doing well in the budget segment, and the Lenovo K8 Plus is a great example of value for money. Although the camera and display could have been better, it does well on performance, and again, battery life is simply stellar. With a 5.2-inch Full HD display, the phone has a 2.5 GHz octa-core processor with 3 GB of RAM and 32 GB of storage. The 4000 mAh battery does great, and there's an 8 megapixel front camera along with a dual camera setup comprising of a 13 megapixel primary sensor and a 5 megapixel sensor to measure depth. The first phone under the rebooted Android One initiative, the Xiaomi Mi A1 is a well-priced performer that recently got a price cut, making it even more attractive. It scored well on all fronts in our review, with only the battery being an area for improvement. This 5.5-inch screen device has a Full HD display, a 2 GHz octa-core processor with 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of storage, along with a 3080 mAh battery. There is a 5 megapixel front camera and a dual camera setup with two 12 megapixel sensors, which allows you to zoom into photos. Another competitively priced entry from Lenovo, the K8 Note scored well in terms of software along with the design and display. It also comes with support for Lenovo's Theatre Max VR Pro, which lets you view any app with a stereoscopic headset. Battery life is a bit of a letdown, particularly when compared to other offerings from the brand. The phone has a 5.5-inch Full HD display, a 1.4 GHz processor with 3 GB of RAM, 32 GB of storage, and a 4000 mAh battery, along with a 13 megapixel front and rear camera. The Moto G family has become the go-to choice for many of us looking for a phone under 15,000 rupees. The build quality is generally good, and the phones typically do well on the software front. And that's true for the Moto G5s Plus as well. The phone's battery life could have been better, but it does well on every other front. In terms of specs, we get a 5.5-inch Full HD display, a 2 GHz octa-core processor paired with 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of storage. It has an 8 megapixel front camera. On the rear, it has a dual 13 megapixel camera setup. The Samsung Galaxy On Max is packed with useful features like face recognition and support for Samsung Pay Mini, along with a generally polished interface. The phone has a 5.7-inch Full HD display, a 1.69 GHz octa-core processor, 4 GB of RAM and 32 GB of storage. It also has a 3300 mAh battery and 30 megapixel cameras for the front and back. Although this phone takes a while to charge, the battery life of the CoolPad CoolPlay 6 is one of its selling points. The performance of the phone is also pretty good, and its fingerprint scanner is extremely fast. In terms of specs, it has a 5.5-inch Full HD display, a 1.4 GHz octa-core processor, 6 GB of RAM and 64 GB of storage. There's a large 4060 mAh battery, an 8 megapixel front camera and dual 13 megapixel cameras, one with an RGB sensor and one with a monochrome sensor. One of the more expensive phones on this list, the Oppo F3 Plus is well worth the money with a good display and design, powerful performance and fantastic battery life. The software is one sticking point, but overall it makes for a really good purchase. For your money, you get a 6-inch display with a Full HD resolution, powered by a 1.95 GHz processor. It's packing in 4GB of RAM, 64GB of storage, and there's a 4000 mAh battery inside. You also get 16 megapixel cameras for the front and rear. Although the Moto G5s Plus has replaced the Moto G5 Plus in the lineup, this phone is still available online and remains an excellent option as well. It's a well-made phone with turbocharging, near-stock Android with thoughtful tweaks, and a quick fingerprint sensor. It is let down by minor heating issues and an average camera. The 5.2-inch Full HD display is backed by a 2 GHz octa-core processor, 4GB of RAM and 32GB of storage, along with a 3000 mAh battery and 5 megapixel and 12 megapixel front and rear cameras. A good all-rounder, the ZTE Nubia Z11 Mini S is worth buying, although availability is a bit of an issue. The phone has a good build and design with excellent battery life and respectable camera and app performance. However, the battery takes quite a while to charge. This phone has a 5.2-inch Full HD display along with a 2 GHz octa-core processor, 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage. There's a 23 megapixel rear camera along with a 13 megapixel selfie camera and a 3000 mAh battery to boot. So thanks for watching this video, and for all things tech, log on to Gadgets360.com.